Well, hello and welcome. Merry Christmas, all. Happy holidays. Final show before Christmas. We'll be back on Friday, so we'll be wrapping it up. We have a great show for you today here on Off the Bench. I'm Reed Mouse, live from Hamilton, Ohio. We're going to talk a little bit more about Luis Robert as Stone is figuring out. I get fired up for some reason when it comes to baseball. Baseball takes in a way that I don't really for football, even though I feel like I have more takes when it comes to football. And he giggles at me whenever I get really worked up, as I am about this whole Luis Robert thing, because my Twitter mentions everything. People are at me for the last few days. And I'll be honest with you guys, it is mind-boggling, the reception that I'm seeing from Reds fans about the proposition of getting this guy. We're going to talk with Nick Kirby at 10:30. We'll be talking pretty considerably about just what I said about the Reds bringing in Luis Robert, which looks to be like a very real possibility. I don't know if it'll happen, but it seems to be a very real possibility. We'll do a buy or sell about the Cincinnati Bengals in the second segment, and we'll finish up the show with a buy or sell about Christmas things. Different Christmas things to talk about. As always, I'm joined by my esteemed producer, Stone Shield. Stone, how are you on this lovely Tuesday morning?
Doing phenomenal, Reed. Happy to be here, as always, our last show before a 2-day hiatus. I believe the plan is we're going to do a Boxing Day show on the 26th. Is that right?
A Boxing Day show?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Why are you looking at me like that?
I don't know what you mean, a Boxing Day show. Why is that going over my head?
The 26th, Boxing Day? Oh, this is right up your alley, Reed. You've never heard of Boxing Day?
No, what is Boxing Day?
I don't even really know what it is. They celebrate it up in Canada, though. It's the 26th of December.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Yeah,
this feels like something you would tell me about.
I was going to bring up Festivus. Today, you're a Seinfeld guy, right? A Jerry Seinfeld guy, but you've never watched the show.
Correct.
That seems to be weird. But yeah, it's Festivus for the Seinfeld fans. It's a day from the show. So happy Festivus. Yeah. You don't know what Festivus is. I don't know what Boxing Day is.
Yeah. Now they're saying it's in England, not Canada, but I swear they recognize it in Canada. But I don't know what it is, but Boxing Day, 26th. Yeah, what's Festivus?
Festivus is a day started by George Costanza's dad, played by Ben Stiller's dad in real life. Instead of celebrating Christmas, they celebrated Festivus, which was a Festivus for the rest of us. Instead of getting wrapped up in consumerism around Christmas time, he started his own holiday, which featured feats of strength, the errands of grievances. They have instead of a Christmas tree, they have a Festivus pole. It's a very absurd episode from Seinfeld. It's a Festivus for the rest of us. Is if anyone brings that, just say Happy Festivus, and then you could say like feats of strength or errand of grievances. They'd wrestle. It's very absurd. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know how you're a Jerry Seinfeld guy and haven't seen Seinfeld.
Yeah, well, I gave it a go when I was younger, and I don't know if it went over my head or I just didn't think it was funny. If I gave it a try now, I'm sure I would appreciate it. But I've just seen his stand-up, and it was great, and I respect the heck out of him. So someday I need to give it a go again. Yeah,
it's a very dry humor. Obviously revolutionized sitcoms, but yeah, being a Jerry Seinfeld fan and never watching Seinfeld would be like being a Dave Chappelle fan and never seen the Chappelle Show. Are you a Dave Chappelle fan, and have you seen the Chappelle Show?
Again, I'm not some crazy Jerry Seinfeld fan, but I do think he's funny from the stuff that I've seen, the stand-up. Same with Chappelle. I think he's funny, but I've never seen his show start to finish.
Fair enough. All right, let's break into today's show, the final show before Christmas. Reminder, we'll be back on Boxing Day, which is Friday. We will be back next week. We'll do a show on New Year's Eve. We will not be doing a show on New Year's Day because Stone said he needs a day to recover from all the festivities that he'll be partaking in on Christmas or on New Year's Eve. All right, so we talked about Luis Robert yesterday. Luis Robert, the center fielder for the Chicago White Sox, who was thought to be one of the future stars of the game just a few years ago when it looked like the White Sox were geared for an amazing future, won 100 games, had all these young talents. Then they pretty much all at the same time started to disintegrate into thin air. And Luis Robert for the last 2 years hasn't hit the ball well at all. You look at his OPS plus, he's 85, 86, like a significantly poor hitter, hitting 220. He's getting on base about 30% of the time, only hitting 15 home runs. He's only played 100 games over the last 2 years. But I've got to tell you guys, the response from the majority of Reds fans about the proposition of getting Luis Robert is shocking. Because I've seen people, and I'm not going to do the Spencer Steer, Luis Robert argument again. I've seen people compare him to Spencer Steer, but I will briefly say that if you think that Luis Robert and Spencer Steer are equal players, you've lost your talking ball card. Like, I hate the phrase, you don't know ball, but like if you think that Spencer Steer is on the same page as Luis Robert, then I just don't know what to tell you. They're not close to the same level of player. In fact, the only thing that Spencer Steer does, which is a very real concern about Luis Robert, is health. Which that brings me to the point. When I see Reds fans get concerned, and there are legit concerns, even though it is a unanimous, it would be, you poll 1,000, 1,000,000 Reds fans, 1,000,000 baseball fans, and you say, are the Cincinnati Reds better with Luis Robert next year? Almost unanimously, you can look up on the Family Feud board, show me, yes, they're better, and every single one would come back, they are better. Like, they would be a better team. People are concerned about the 220 batting average and him hitting, and the health thing doesn't really come up, and that's the point that concerns me. If you are concerned about his play on the field, that should not be it. Your concern is that he doesn't get on the field. He's played 100 games the last 2 years. He's played 200 total, so he hasn't played a full season since 2023. And, when he played that full season, he was an MVP candidate. Your concern is that he shouldn't go on the field. That's really the only gamble the Reds have here in this part. It isn't that the bottom drops out. He's 28 years old. He's going into the prime of his career. There's a new lease. They will certainly be playing for more than the Chicago White Sox will be this year. And the last time that Lou Bob played well, the White Sox were playing for something. He had a good lineup around him. So the concern shouldn't be, he's not a good player. Why are the Reds diverting assets and money towards not a good player? The concern should be his health. And I'm not seeing enough people talk about that. It's always about, he was a bad hitter last year. He was a bad hitter for the last 2 years. Why do you think he can get back to 2023? And the simple fact is I think that because of the floor that his base running, he's a 98 percentile base runner. He's got 98 percentile in bat speed. He's a 92 percentile fielder. Because of all that, the floor for him when he's on the field is so high. But the really exciting thing when it comes to why the Reds should get Luis Robert and why this is a layup, it's a slam dunk if they're able to get it and don't have to give away too much. There is a price tag too tall for Luis Robert. This Reds team, we watched them make the postseason last year. The first time that they have made the postseason in a full season since 2013. And we watched them from the top to the bottom in the National League. Their team wasn't close. Now they had to play the Dodgers, who obviously went on to win the World Series and are head and shoulders above probably even the second best team in the league. And that's a tall task. But the Reds weren't on the same page as the Padres, the Cubs, the Brewers, the Phillies. They weren't on the same level as those teams, the rest of the teams in the National League. And the reason that they weren't on the level is because their lineup wasn't good enough. Their ceiling in their lineup wasn't good enough. So I'll ask the question. If you are scared about Luis Robert joining this lineup, joining this Reds team, I just have to implore you to think about the ceiling that he can raise. Because I don't know about you, but if I'm going to go into this season to where if they don't get Luis Robert, probably the next best option is bringing back Austin Hayes. You missed out on Kyle Schwarber. They made a run at him. It wasn't good enough. But the next best option to help this lineup is a guy that was already here, Austin Hayes or Miguel Andujar, or someone along those lines, or someone new that's not going to be as big of a name, as big, and has had as much success in his career as Luis Robert. I'd be willing to, as a Reds fan, go into next year taking a swing to raise my ceiling, to be a 90-win team. And Luis Robert can do that. And you're going to need some help from McLain getting back to status. You're going to need some help from some other players playing a little better. but taking a legitimate swing at being a 90-win team. And if it fails, and you're back to 72 wins. Then bringing back Austin Hayes or Miguel Andujar and being the same 82-win team and missing out by a game. And even if you get there, you're just not good enough. And the best part is that I don't think is being talked about enough is the prices listed. Now, obviously, if they're asking for Chase Burns, that's too much. If they're asking for Rhett Lauder, that's too much. You can set back your franchise in that way. The best part of this deal is, let's say it goes completely haywire. You bring in Luis Robert. He's under contract for this year with a team option, so the Reds have the option for next year. $20 million. And it's being reported that the Chicago White Sox are willing to eat a lot of that money, which then will, of course, raise the price of the prospect. If you bring him in, and it is an abject disaster, in the same way that 34-year-old Will Myers was when you brought him in, or 33-year-old Matt Kemp when you brought him in, which, by the way, Luis Robert's going to be 28 next year. Let's say that's the case, and it was just a complete disaster. You are on the hook for only $22 million. $20 million for this year and a $2 million buyout if you don't pick up the option. The good news is, if you bring him in, you get a legitimate ceiling raiser, MVP candidate type of talent. He's not going to be an MVP because Shohei Ohtani plays in this league. But a legitimate MVP all-star talent for potentially 2 years. For the steep price, for cheaper than what you paid Nick Martinez this past year. For a little bit more than what you're paying for Jamier Candelario. I think that there really shouldn't be much of a debate if the Reds are able to do this. The only debate is, what is it costing? I know Kirby brought up a name like Brady Singer. That's obviously because he's going to be someone that can hold this rotation together, throw 170 innings. If someone gets hurt like Nick Lindolo often does or Hunter Green often does, Brady Singer can be that guy to keep this all together. But if they're asking for a Rhett Lauder or Chase Brown, that's probably a little too tall. If they're asking for a Chase Petty or a Brandon Williamson, I'm in. And you should be too. It really comes down to, what is the price for this for Lou Bob. But the idea that I've seen amongst Reds fans that he doesn't change the perplexion of this team is outright wrong. He does. You ask every baseball fan in the National League Central, and I'll tell you right hand, as someone who roots for another team in the National League Central, Luis Robert going to the Reds does scare me. Bringing back Austin Hayes or Miguel Andujar doesn't make me lose a single second of sleep. Because Luis Robert at Great American Ballpark, if he plays 160 games, has the capability to hit 40 home runs. He has the capability to steal 30 bags. He has the capability to be one of the best center fielders in the league. He has the capability to raise this offense, which is going to need some players like Matt McLain, CES, name them, to play better, but has the capability to be a serious threat in the middle of that lineup. We're looking for ceiling raisers. And oh yeah, he raises the floor too. Because his defense, his speed, and the position in which he plays raises the floor for this team as well. The only concern you have isn't when he's on the field, is that he's off. His health is a legit concern. But as for him playing on the field, if he's out there for 162 games, I'd be willing to stake whatever little reputation I have, whatever you want to say, I'd be willing to stake it all that if he plays 162 games, he's worth the $20 million that the Reds would pay him. Now, is he worth the prospect that you're going to have to trade away? That's a question, because we're going to have to see what kind of that deal is. Stone, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. Is there anything that you want to push back on what I said about Luis Robert right here and being a true ceiling raiser and being a true floor raiser, and that the Reds should absolutely be in on this guy?
No, I completely agree with you. I definitely think the Reds should do everything in their power to try to land him, because you have to understand, it's a small market. It's the Cincinnati Reds. There's some of these names that are out there, like Cody Bellingers of the world. There's no chance that Cincinnati's going to get a player like that. When you're operating with the budget that the Reds are operating with, you're not going to have this surefire can't-miss guy. There's going to be some red flags. There's going to be some holes in his game. There's going to be some, oh, he's been hurt a little bit. Oh, his batting average isn't as high as we would like. Maybe he's not playing as much as we would like to. But as you mentioned, the ceiling is through the roof with a guy like Luis Robert. And, the ability to hit home runs, the speed on the base pass, the glove that he brings to center field, all of those things could help elevate this team. And also some protection around Elly in the lineup, right? I think that's something that Elly could really, really use. Elly's a tremendous hitter. It didn't end great last year. He definitely was playing through injury, but there's nobody that really protects him in the lineup. If Luis Robert can tap into his potential a little bit, he could be a guy that could protect Elly De La Cruz in that lineup, and that's good for all parties in the lineup. So there's not going to be some surefire can't-miss guy that's definitely going to be an all-star for you, but Robert has proven in the past that he's an all-star. He's proven that he's a Gold Glove winner in the past as well. And as far as, salary goes and being team-friendly, it's not going to get much more team-friendly than this. I understand it's $20 million. We'll see. There's been reports out there about the White Sox paying some of that salary. Maybe that can get knocked down more than that. Might have to give up more prospects in the process in a deal like that. But I'm absolutely all in on Luis Robert. You can't afford to run things back offensively and expect different results. You got to throw a new hat into the ring and a new player into the lineup. And I think Robert checks off a lot of boxes.
You look at Luis Roberts' year last year. It wasn't good offensively. He played 110 games. He hit 14 home runs, batted .223, had a .297 on-base percentage, and his slugging percentage was probably the most alarming fact amongst it all, .364. If you extrapolate that to 162, and we use this as the absolute basement of offensive output from Luis Robert, you know what his numbers spread out to? 21 home runs, 48 stolen bases, while also playing one of the best gloves in center field, a premier position. So you can go ahead and take that, and you Spencer Steeler apologist. But this guy this is a big deal, and I can't wrap my brain around the fact that Reds fans are so apprehensive to bring in a player that if he plays, he will be worth every penny for the Reds. I promise you, he will be. He'll be worth every single penny that he has, that you're going to give him. But you got to bring him in, and that's the concern. Is he going to play 162 games? What's it going to cost to bring him in? And as I mentioned, if it works out great, you get him for 2 years. If it's just a disaster, like a just true disaster, then you cut bait. You cut bait, you're on the hook for $22 million this year. $22 million for a potential lineup-changing move. And that's why Nick Krall is considering this. That's why this team realizes, hey, with the current constraints that we have as a team, it's not any player that you can get that can raise a ceiling like Luis Robert is going to come with baggage. And the baggage is $20 million, and he gets hurt a lot. And he's coming off 2 bad years. That's why the Reds are in the running. You're never going to get it. You're not going to get a Juan Soto. You're not going to get a Ronald. You're not going to get those players that are at the height of their powers. The only reason that the Reds were in on Kyle Schwarber is because he's a designated hitter, and he's 33, and he's from Cincinnati. Like that was why. So when a gift horse, when you got a gift horse, you don't look him in the mouth, and I don't understand that saying whatsoever. I don't understand it at all. All right, we got a few buy or sells before we have Nick Kirby on at 10:30, who we're going to be talking more about Luis Robert. These are questions that I have pertained to our beloved Cincinnati Bengals, the 5-10 ballyhooed Cincinnati Bengals that are just roaring right now. They're having a heck of a week. Let's dive right in. As it's giggling at me. Let's dive right in. Buy or sell, Stone. Jordan Battle is a building block for this Bengals defense.
I'll go sell. Look, I've said this a million times on the show. When you look at the defense last year, you look at the defense this year, I want new bodies out there. I want new faces out there. I want new players out there. I don't care how well you think they've played here over the course of the past few weeks or how well they might play against the Arizona Cardinals and the Cleveland Browns. We saw this out of this unit last year, right? When you had bad quarterbacks at the back end of your schedule, defense started to play better. Let's not forget about the reason why this team is here, the reason why this team only has 5 wins, in large part because of the defense. I want wholesale changes. Jordan Battle, look, he's got a nose for the football. I think some people, that tricks them into thinking he's actually a good football player. He's not. Is he going to be on the roster next year? Absolutely. But should he be a starter? I don't think so. He probably will be a starter. They'll move off of Geno Stone, you would think, and he'll be back as a starter. But I'm ready to go in a completely different direction at both the starting safety spots. We were talking about this yesterday off the air. In the NFL, there's not really safety rotation, right? There certainly wasn't when Lou Anarumo was here. You got your 2 safeties. You roll with them. They're out there for the majority of the snaps. I don't think Jordan Battle is a player that you want out there for the majority of the snaps. Again, has a nose for the football, has some interceptions, some forced fumbles, some fumble recoveries. That's all great, but I don't think the tackling has been good enough for him. I don't think the discipline's good enough for him. I don't think his read and react ability is quick enough, to be completely honest with you, from the safeties and, of course, the linebackers as well. I'm looking at this defense. Miles Murphy's going to be back. Dax Hill should be back. Juan Drago Turner, who got snubbed out of the Pro Bowl, he should be back. But beyond those 3, I'm ready to move off of everybody. So he's going to be on the team next year, but I hope he's not a starter.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're absolutely right in your opinions there. He's going to be on the team next year. And I think he's going to be a starter because if you look at this team, they can't replace 8 guys. Like, they can't. Like, they could try, but it's really, really hard to replace 8 guys on a defense. So when you look at 8 potential guys that you can replace, probably the best out of that lot is a guy like Jordan Battle. And because he's under contract, because they drafted him out, like, he's going to be back. So is he a building block? Sell that. But he's going to be on this team next year. And you know what? There's worse spots to be. Like, there are worse guys that we can, like Geno Stone. You cannot bring him back. You know that. Cam Taylor-Britt, you cannot bring him back. You know that. Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter being the 2 linebackers, you cannot go that route. We know that. So Jordan Battle, is he a building block? No, but it could be worse when it comes to bringing back a guy that is probably going to have to play safety for the Cincinnati Bengals next year. Here's a fun one. This guy, I think, has gone under the radar a little bit this year. Amarius Mims, buy or sell, is a future star.
Buy. I've been really impressed with him. I think the plan probably is Orlando Brown's probably going to be back next year, but at some point when he leaves, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to move Mims over to the left side and have him be the left tackle. We dragged this organization and front office through the mud, rightfully so. They got the Amarius Mims pick right. I feel good about that. Everything about him, how he handles the media, off the field, the relationships you hear about, how his teammates feel about him, his toughness, his physicality. That was kind of a question, right, because he got banged up a lot at Georgia, was banged up certainly a lot through his rookie year. He's been out there. He's been available this year. He's been playing through injury. I've been really impressed with him. I'm all in on Amarius Mims. Good pick, Duke.
Yeah, no, it's credit where it's due in a consistent draft where they're drafting guys for the traits that they have, the body type that they have, where they're getting guys like Shamar Stewart, Miles Murphy, Jermaine Burton that have all significantly failed. There was that same baggage around Amarius Mims. He had not started many games. He obviously had the size and everything like that. He was hurt a lot, but it's worked out. It has worked out to this point, and he's getting better with reps, which is all that you could ask for when you get a guy that didn't have as much as many college reps as most of the players in the draft. So there was a lot of red flags when they drafted him, but it has absolutely worked out to this point. He's just got to keep staying healthy, and he's got to keep getting better. I'm buying this, that I also think that he's going to be a star. We only have time probably for one more question. Buy or sell? The Bengals have the fewest questions to answer to this offseason in the AFC North.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'll sell. I mean, the Browns always got questions, right? They gotta figure out. They're gonna have a top pick, right? Shedeur Sanders, he's shown a little bit, but you can't go into next year as him being your guy. You at least got to give him some competition. They got to figure out the quarterback position. The guy that they were building around, Quinshon Judkins, was having an unbelievable rookie year. He snapped his leg in half and hurt his ankle in the process. So I don't know if he's going to be available for the start of next year. That's kind of a mess for them. They've got guys on defense that are really good, but these guys all of a sudden are aging, and all they've done throughout their whole career, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, is lose. They got a bright spot at the linebacker in Schlesinger. Probably going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's been tremendous for them. They got to figure out what they're going to do with their GM, Andrew Barry, Kevin Stefanski, these Ivy School guys that lose but just keep their jobs. I understand that Stefanski's won the Coach of the Year twice, but there's a ton of questions in Cleveland. And as much of a mess as it is here in Cincinnati, it's a much bigger mess in Cleveland. So I'll say they have more questions to answer than Cincinnati. I'll sell it. If you want to talk Baltimore-Pittsburgh, I think they're very similar to Cincinnati. Pittsburgh has their foundation on defense. They're all getting paid a lot of money, and they're all aging. Might need to move off a few players. Obviously, the Rodgers thing is a year-by-year thing. The Ravens certainly have questions there as well. So everybody in this division has questions. I was wrong. I said 3 teams in this division were going to make the playoffs. You could argue they shouldn't even have one, to be honest. Thank you. You've had a few good ones as well. But, yeah,
I was being serious. That was a good take. What is that? You taking a shot at me? I was being serious. I was being sincere here.
Yeah, right.
Good take. Get back on your roll.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that was it. The Browns. I'm selling.
Okay. Listen, here when it comes to – it's a hard buy. It really is a hard buy because the Bengals, obviously, we've mentioned on the show, they've got to answer to like 8 pieces on the defense, and there's going to be some national questions about what we do at head coach, about what we do with the director of player personnel and everything like that. But when it comes to the Bengals, and I truly mean this, their questions are very tunnel visioned. It's right down the middle. It's everything. We just got to look at defense. Just got to look at defense. We got to get better defensively. To where you're looking in Pittsburgh, what are they going to do at quarterback if Aaron Rodgers comes back? What do they do with Mike Tomlin if they get punked in the first postseason game again? What do they do with this defense that they're paying a lot of money for? And it's fine. It's good. But it's not. They're not getting a good ROI. They're not getting an ROI. What do the Ravens do with John Harbaugh? What do they do with their aging players? And, their quarterback seems to be descending, seems to be pulling back on the talent level quite considerably. So, yeah, I'm with you. It's a hard buy based off the season that the Bengals have had. I fully understand that. When you look around, it is pretty significant that the Bengals really only have one serious question to answer towards. So while we're waiting on Kirby to get hooked up, we'll do one more buy sell with just me, and that is Mike Tomlin's streak for the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, his streak of winning seasons, is impressive. And yes, it gets made fun of all the time because they go 8-8. 9-7, 8-8, then get punked in the first round. They haven't won a postseason game since before Donald Trump got inaugurated the first time back in 2016. I guess that was 2017. So it's been a long time since they've won a postseason game, but it is impressive. You've got to buy it. This league is the most competitive league in sports in the world. There is nothing like what the NFL is. And when you can go, everyone starts out on a pretty similar. They got salary caps. They got the draft system. It's all pretty copacetic. And they've been doing it now for 5 years without good quarterback play. Aaron Rodgers is playing well this year. But the end of Big Ben wasn't good. Kenny Pickett was a disaster. Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph. It hasn't been good in quarterback play, which has kind of ruled the league. But I will give kudos because that is very impressive. Never had a losing season. You get kudos for that. As much as I want to laugh at the Pittsburgh Steelers, because there are plenty of things to laugh about that city, you got to give credit where it's due, and that's they never lose. Are we ready for Curbs?
Working through some audio stuff here.
All right, I'll keep it going. I'll keep it rolling. I am going to talk with Nick Kirby about Luis Roberts as he comes on. He did a podcast yesterday on Chatterbox Reds, kind of breaking down this news. It's almost a tired. I think maybe that when I think about why Reds fans are reacting the way they are, and I think that they should be more excited about this, is because he's been rumored. He was rumored in this season at the trade deadline. He's been talked about before because of the similarities. So I understand where that's coming from, but man, it just really is shocking to me. It is just shocking to me to see some of the Reds fans not more excited about the potential of bringing in Luis Roberts, where really the only thing that you should be worried about is his health. And without that, we're going to bring in Our very own Nick Kirby. It's been a long time. Merry Christmas to you, Curbs, from Chatterbox Reds and the guy that keeps us all in check. Curbs, how are you on this fine Tuesday morning?
Merry Christmas, Reed. I'm doing well. Finishing up the last-minute Christmas preparations. How about you, my friend? You got a little one getting close, huh?
I do. I don't have like 6 like you do. It'd just be my
only
first.
Only four.
Maybe it'll be the first of 4. But yeah, we're getting excited getting the nursery ready, which has been a lot of fun. Getting all that stuff painted. It makes me really excited to be a dad. So I'm looking forward to it. That's about a month and a half away. So thanks for asking about that. I wanted to bring you on and ask about Luis Robert. It's been a long time, and I thought I'd hear from the most trusted voice in the Cincinnati Reds, behind myself, of course. It is Nick Kirby. What is your overall take? And we'll start here. We'll use this as a baseline. What is your overall take on the Reds potentially getting Luis Robert?
Well, like with just about everything, it just depends on what you're giving up. I mean, there's no question that he would make the Reds better. He would provide the Reds with, at minimum, significantly improved defense in center field, batter that could hit left-handed pitching. Remember, Reds have lost Austin Hayes and Miguel Andujar, their 2 best hitters against left-handed pitching last season, so they have to replace that. And that's just kind of the floor with him. I mean, obviously the ceiling that he hasn't reached in a couple years, but he's only 28 years old at the moment. He's not 34. I mean, if he gets anywhere close to that, I mean, that's an all-star MVP level player. So I'm all for getting him. It just depends at the cost and at the end of the day.
How in do you think the Reds are at getting him? Like, do you think they are, like, seriously? I know there's been reports that they're one of the 2 teams, and they continue to report. How in do you think the Reds are on trying to get Luis Robert?
If the report is true that the White Sox are willing to eat half the salary, then I would say the Reds are pretty far in, because I don't think the Reds are going to be able to find a player with the upside that Robert has for about $10 million in cash. If the White Sox are wanting to someone to take on the full $20 million, I just don't see any way the Reds are in. So that to me would be the determination of how far the Reds are in or not.
So you think that if they have to take on their salary, they're completely out, just based off the comments that they've said about where their payroll is at. Is that surprising to you that a player like Luis Robert, in the same way that, I mean, he hasn't had the success, obviously, that Kyle Schwarber has over the last few years, but I think I'm not stretching the truth too much when I say that if Luis Robert plays up to his potential, is a far superior player to Kyle Schwarber. You don't think that he's the kind of needle mover that they would be willing to eat that $20 million contract?
I don't think so, and I'm not sure if Luis Robert would get $20 million on the open market.
Really?
It'd probably be close. I mean, you might have a team like the Dodgers and the Mets that would just drastically overpay. But I don't think, given the fact that he has been a below average the last 2 years and has played, I think, 100 and 110 games the last 2 years, I just don't think he's going to get more than $20 million. So I think that's also part of this not wanting to go any further, is just because of that as well.
That's interesting. As a Cubs fan, I'm really well aware of Cody Bellinger came off far worse years than Luis Robert had these last 2 years when he came to the Cubs, and he got about $18 million. He's around the same age, and now he won an MVP previously, which Luis Robert had not. So, yeah, you're probably right. $20 million is a little too much. Are you shocked, and maybe I'm reading too much in the weeds on this, are you shocked at the pushback that the proposition that the Reds would get Luis Robert is receiving from Reds fans? Like, I see a lot of Reds fans are like, I don't want him. Don't go get him. I don't want him, because you and I both know that their team would be better with him on the field. Are you shocked at all by the Reds fans' reaction to this?
No, because they hate Brian Hayes. So it's the same concept. People just don't value defense, and that's fine. I would say, why do you think the Reds made the playoffs with last year? Mm-hmm. It certainly wasn't their offense. It was their pitching and their defense. So continuing to build on that strength is a recipe. I've said this many times. Everyone wants the Reds to be the Milwaukee Brewers, Reed, but they don't want to do what the Milwaukee Brewers do. They don't want to trade players that are popular, that are still really good players that have like a year or two of control. They don't want to do that. They don't want to get defensive-minded players. That's what the Milwaukee Brewers do. The Milwaukee Brewers, their roster building a lot of times is very boring, and that's what wins. Boring wins, Reed.
Especially
for small markets.
Especially for small markets. You're absolutely I brought up the point before. You look at when I was making the case for why he really not only raises the floor, which he clearly does, he also significantly raises the ceiling, and that's why if you get both, that's a really good player. Look at the two teams that did really well in the National League Central last year. The Milwaukee Brewers, probably the best, if not the second best team in defensively in baseball. Oh, and who's right behind them? The Chicago Cubs. Now the Cubs have done it a different way. They've gone after bigger salaried guys that play good defense, Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner, guys like that, while the Brewers did it. But defense, it's proven that it is successful, and that's why he raises the floor, not only just the ceiling, if he can get back to that MVP level. All right, so let me ask you this. Outside of the cost, what is the biggest concern that you have with Lou Bob, him coming into town?
Probably more his ability to stay on the field than his production. I don't think you have to squint very hard to think you get him into Cincinnati, you get him out of the Chicago White Sox, who've lost 100 straight games, 3 straight years or 4 straight years.
Right.
I mean, there's real reason to believe. Who was the Brewer? I'm drawing a blank. Who was the Brewers guy, the first baseman?
Reese Hoskins? Or
No. The guy from the White Sox.
Oh, Perkins? Or
Andrew Vaughn. Andrew Vaughn. I mean, you got him out of the. We literally saw this last year. I mean, Andrew Vaughn looked like absolutely toast. A former, a highly sought after prospect that came up when he debuted well, and then was just terrible with the White Sox. He gets traded to the Brewers, and he's rejuvenated, and he was a huge part of their success in the second half. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about the production from him, mainly because I believe the floor is so high. It's just really his ability to stay on the field, which is why last year, Reed, I didn't want the Reds to give up Alfredo Duno or give up Brett Lauder or something crazy because of that. But now that you've kind of got past that point, and it's now where you're probably looking at just giving up maybe a Chase Petty type prospect, I can be a lot more on board with that.
All right, so I will get back to that. What's a price that you'd be comfortable spending? But I'll say this about the point that you just made. I feel like there's a sentiment when it comes to players, and I strongly disagree with this sentiment, at least in some capacity, when they're like, these are professionals. They'll go out there and they'll give their professional, like, you don't need to coddle them. They are professionals. It's like, yeah, well, like, everyone likes to be competing for something. Everyone likes to be, putting their best foot forward. And there's probably a really easy analogy that you can make with what we're doing here at Chatterbox Sports in terms of content. Is where if we had millions of people watching, it'd probably be a little more into doing it on a daily basis. That being said, if you look at Luis Roberts, his big 2023 year, there is a clear cutoff of when it started to declining. He was red hot until about the end of June. What happened at the end of June? This White Sox team that had won 100 games 2 years prior and that had won around 82 games the year prior, they started going towards a 100-loss season. So they started going down, and what happens? Luis Roberts' production goes down. So for everyone that goes, that doesn't mean anything, there is actual evidence that shows when the White Sox aren't playing well, Luis Robert doesn't play well. When the White Sox are playing well, Luis Robert plays well, and maybe those two things go hand in hand. So that's just a little tidbit about people that go, oh, they're professionals. They'll always give you your best thing. These are human beings. They sometimes need to be incentivized, as everyone knows. As anyone that's ever worked or been a part of any team has ever known, you need to incentivize people. So let's get back to the question at hand, which is, what is a reasonable price that you would be okay? What is your benchmark of, all right, Alfredo Duno, no. Rhett Lauder, no. Chase Burns, where is that baseline of where the no becomes a yes?
Well, they said they're looking for pitching, so I'll just focus on pitching.
Okay.
There certainly would be hitters, but they said they're looking for pitching. I think Brandon Williamson, Julian Aguiar, plus eating some salary, sign me up. Let's do the deal right now. Let's make it work. Chase Petty, for me, I would be willing to do, but I would need to know this answer that I don't know. Do the Reds feel like they have very little chance of being successful with turning Chase Petty's career around? If the answer is no, if the Reds feel like, hey, look, we've done everything we can, we don't think that we can fix him, then trade him for Luis Robert. But if you still feel like, hey, like 2025 was just a miserable year for him, we think we can do this tweak, and we can get him back on track, then trading for a injury risk player like Luis Robert for a guy that was a top 100 prospect, I mean, literally 9 months ago, does seem like a little bit too steep. That's where I'm at with Chase Petty, and I just don't know where the Reds are and how they view him.
Okay, so if the Reds view him as, I don't want to say damaged goods, but like kind of at the end of their rope, as we've seen with several players, that sometimes works. You just got a new change of scenery, like we are suggesting could help for Luis Robert, could be for Chase Petty, to where it's kind of a copacetic thing. Hey, the Reds get a floor raiser, ceiling raiser, and you get a prospect that you can turn into something that could be a landmark for your team to come. Okay, so let me ask you this. Does Luis Robert become more attractive? We've already talked about the $20 million and how you don't think he'd get that on the open market. Does he become attractive because he does have that team option at the end of this year, to where, like, if things are gangbusters, right? Hits 30 home runs, plays 160 games, does that make him more of an attractive target?
Oh, yeah, that's probably the best thing, is that, yeah, this year might be a slight overpay in terms of, what he's done in the past and that. But the fact that you have basically like almost a lottery ticket for the second year, where you only have to pay $2 million to buy him out, which is nothing. The Reds paid Brent Suter and Scott Barlow, I think, that amount of money to buy them out. But you have that lottery ticket, not only for you, but you could also flip him again. I mean, this is what the smart teams do. So if Luis Robert's an MVP candidate, he gets to the end of the year, and it's just an all-star. Gets to the end of the year, and you go, you know what? Hey, he's got that 1 year left. We'll trade him, and we'll triple our prospects that we sent to get him. And that's just kind of the way that a small market has to operate. They have to always be trying to get value back. Or if no one's given that, you have an all-star player next year. I mean, that's great. And the crazy thing is, Reed, is you almost in theory could end up keeping him 3 years or getting another prospect back, because you could qualifying offer him that third year. And so there's a lot of options, and that piece of it is a really nice bonus to it.
It's almost like you're not locked in like a Jeimer Candelario. You can get out of it for $2 million if you tried. You took a big swing. You tried to land the punch on the jaw. You missed. You're on the mat. Well, I can get out of this still for $2 million. Or it's gangbusters. It all works out. You've got a great deal on a really, really solid player that you can turn in. Nick Kirby, thank you so much for giving me some of your time. Merry Christmas. Hopefully all 4 kids were good on the good list this year, and no one gets a lump of coal.
They've been pretty good. I'm feeling optimistic about their chances.
All right. See you, Curbs.
I see you, brother.
Nick Kirby, Chatterbox Reds. So kind to get on here for a few minutes, outside of being a dad of 4 and pushing out all of our content that he does, and rounding up all the cats that we have here at Chatterbox Sports to get all the content. Yeah, he said some really interesting things that I agree. It's all, as I've put, there's a lot of Reds fans that are concerned about the play of Luis Robert. I don't think that's a legit concern. I don't think that should be your concern, because if you bring him in, the only way that I don't think that you're going to get near the value of his contract, is $20 million this year, is if he doesn't play 160 games. If he plays 110 games, this team's still better. Like, this team's floor is raised. This team's ceiling is raised. He's a really, really good player. And I get I guess I don't get it. I don't understand where the disconnect is for Reds fans. I guess it is what Kirby said, and it's a really, really good quote that I love. Reds fans see the Milwaukee Brewers and they understand that they are a smart franchise and they do things right and they've got this devil, like they are smart, but they don't want the Reds to act like the Milwaukee Brewers, and that's absolutely true. Milwaukee Brewers traded away Cy Young candidate Corbin Burns when they were still competing, and everyone's like, what the hell are you doing? And what happened? They had their best year. And they get rid of their closing pitchers like Josh Hader and Devin Williams that are some of the best relief pitchers in the world. And they're like, what are you doing? And it just seems to work out for the Brewers because they're always a step ahead, and that's where the Reds are trying to get. And by doing that, the greatest floor raisers in sports are pitching and defense. Great base running. The traits that aren't sexy. They're not sexy. You know what's sexy? Hitting 30 home runs, driving in 100 runs, and batting 300. Those traits, those statistics are sexy. You know what's not sexy? Having a 10 outs above average. Leading the league in baseball savants, baseball running or base running ability, being a 99 percentile like Luis Robert is. That's not sexy, but that's what wins. That's what wins. Every fan can look, and we'll do it until the end of time. We'll look at that Brewers roster. We'll look at that lineup and go, wow, that team's not really good. Well, Christian Yelich is a good player, and William Contreras is a really good catcher, but outside of that, Bryce Terang's good. I don't really see it. No, this looks like a 70-win team. But the reason that they are consistently really good is because they get outs. They get outs. That's the currency of baseball. Not runs, not wins, it's outs. Do you have good pitching? The Reds do. Are you good defensively? Not really. Elly's pretty good. Matt McLain's pretty good. The rest of it's not very good. Can we get better defensively? Can we get better at the currency of baseball, which is outs? So that's where I'm at. And Kirby knows more about these prospects than I do. Obviously, Chase Burns, Rhett Lauder, too tall, too much on top of having to pay the $20 million. But yeah, Chase Petty, Brandon Williamson, name some of these prospects that the White Sox are just trying to cut bait and move on because it's clearly not working with Luis Robert in Chicago. So I'll round up my discussion on Luis Robert by saying thus. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan. You guys kill me on it all the time, and I get why. I like to troll. I like to poke funs, but I do think that most of my takes about the Reds are literally I'm not like trying to rub you guys the wrong way. They might be a little biased, but I'm not trying to rub you guys the wrong way. If the Reds bring back Austin Hayes, if the Reds bring back Miguel Andujar or whatever like move, I don't even know what that looks like move for those guys, comes into the Reds, I'm not losing 1 second of freaking sleep. If the Reds bring in Luis Robert, that's something that makes you open your eyes. When 6'3", 240-pound dude that was on pace to steal 50 bases last year and hit 39 home runs just 2 years ago steps into the middle of your order, that's pretty imposing. And oh yeah, he's entering his prime. I made the comparison to Cody Bellinger. Because Cody Bellinger, before he went to the Chicago Cubs, was the worst player in baseball. By WAR, negative 1.6. That's worse. That's Chris Davis 2018 bad for the Baltimore Orioles. He batted 165 and had an on-base percentage of 240. What did he come back the next year? 210 batting average, on-base percentage of 265. He got $20 million, and a new change of scenery made him a brand-new ball player. He hit 29 home runs over 2 years in his final 2 years with the Dodgers while batting under 200 and getting on base about 25% of the time. But the reason that you felt confident giving him $20 million and the reason that you felt confident in Cody Bellinger turning around his career is because, A, you've seen it before, just like Luis Robert, and B, they're at a really good age, 27, 28 years old, and the traits that can raise the floor and the traits that can raise the ceiling are right there. to where this cannot, where Nick Martinez getting the qualifying offer last year for $21 million, that was never going to be a gangbusters deal. At best, you're squinting your eyes to see if it made sense at all. I think the Reds gambled and Nick Martinez called their bluff. There's a world, in a likely world, in which this $20 million Luis Robert contract is one of the best deals in baseball. In the same way that you've got one with Hunter Green for $9 million. But he's got to stay healthy, which is a big ask. The health is a legit concern, and one that I don't bring up a whole lot because I realize that it's a legit concern. Stone, final 5 minutes here. I wanted to do a little fun Christmas game.
Okay.
I want to do a little fun with Christmas. So we did buy or sell regarding the NFL, regarding the Cincinnati Bengals earlier. I wanted to do it since it's our final show before Christmas. Buy or sell different things Christmas related.
Okay.
So without further ado, let's buy or sell Christmas, and I'll start it off here. I heard you humming, little J Beebs before the show started. Buy or sell modern Christmas songs are better than old Christmas songs.
Buy. I'm very much, I live in the now kind of musically. I respect all the old Christmas songs. Like, how far back in the past are you talking here?
I would say the bench line is Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You."
Yeah. Well, that's
a
great song.
That's a great song. That's no, I'm saying that's modern. That's
okay.
modern.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
I'm talking Dean Martin, Bing Crosby, Darlene Love, all the greats that were there. It's beginning to look a lot like those songs. Yeah. So modern Christmas songs are better. You buying or selling?
Modern, much better. Buying.
Okay.
I'm not really tapped into that age of music. I'm very much a modern guy. So, I respect all the old ones, but yeah, modern.
Well, to be fair to the old ones, a lot of modern Christmas songs are just covers of those old Christmas songs. Michael Bublé, I don't know if he has an original Christmas song, but you hear him everywhere because he's singing all the old classics. I think I'll buy, and I do like I feel like people always talk about, why don't they make good Christmas movies anymore? And they don't. At least maybe I don't watch the Hallmark Channel enough. But they are still making great Christmas songs. There's good Christmas albums that come out almost every single year. You just got to be listening close enough. So I will buy. I like the Taylor Swift. I like the Michael Bublés. I like Kelly Clarkson. Like, those are great. I'm a big Christmas guy.
Yeah. I think that's where our 10-year age gap kind of comes in. So I understand.
Right. Fair enough. Buy or sell. I think this is going to be a controversial one, but some families do this. Buy or sell opening presents on Christmas Eve.
Sell. Absolutely not. Christmas Day in the morning, you don't have to wake up at the crack of dawn, but you got to be up and moving definitely before 11 o'clock, probably before 10 o'clock as well. But, yeah, opening on Christmas Eve, I've never understood that. Have a great time, get together with the family, enjoy the heck out of Christmas Eve, but don't be opening any of those gifts.
What about, okay, so no gifts at all?
No.
Because my family we had a little appetizer. So we'd go over to my cousins, do the whole Christmas thing. We'd get back, and then my dad would be like, all right, everyone gets one present. And he comes out, he goes and gets the present, lays one present out for everyone like that, which I thought that was like, but I'm agreeing that outside of the one present, unless you can't get together on Christmas Day, because obviously families got to bounce all over the place. Sometimes you got to spend Christmas Eve with one family and Christmas Day with another family. If that's the case, do what you got to do. But if you have the option, you're spending both days, you got to wait to Christmas morning. You got to wait for Christmas morning, waking up at the crack of dawn and opening up those presents. So I'm with you. All right. Buy or sell eggnog.
I've never had eggnog.
Really?
I've never tried it. So I should try it. I would like to try it, but I have no clue what it tastes like. Never had it.
And it's a weird. I don't even know how to describe the taste. I don't. It's literally full eggs. Like, there's full eggs, and they put cream in it and sugar and sometimes little booze in there. But I'm buying eggnog. Love eggnog. Now, you got to watch how much eggnog you drink. There's a lot of calories in that eggnog. Like, I think like a 8-ounce glass of eggnog has like 400 calories. Like, you got to watch how much eggnog you have. But it's Christmas. Have fun. Buying eggnog. It's delicious, and homemade eggnog is even better. All right, buy or sell the White Elephant Christmas game.
Buy or sell.
You don't like that game?
No. What? I mean, you just had one, right? You brought that hamster.
I
in for
did.
your friends?
The problem with the white elephant, I think I'm closer to a sell too. The reason I'm close to a sell is it just causes problems. Because there's when you get 10 people putting gifts together, everyone knows there's bad gift givers and everyone knows there's great gift givers. And like you can put a price limit, but even then you just know there's going to be a few people that just put some junk in there. And then you don't want to be the person that, like, if you are a good gift giver, you're like, I don't want to take my own gift, but it looks like the best gift out there. So then you're just like, no, I won't take my gift. So you like, you throw in, what's the Office bit? Like, I throw in the Xbox and I'll go home with a candle. Like that kind of a thing. Like, obviously that's an extreme case, but I think I'm selling the white elephant Christmas game. Although when it works, it's a lot of fun. When it works, it's a lot of fun. Although I also get wrapped up to where, like, if you do have a good gift and people are just stealing it, so then you're just grabbing someone else's gift and then it's just a triangle of bouncing back and forth. It's too much. It's too much. Secret Santa's way better. Get one present. I got to get a present for Stone. All right, I'll get a present for Stone.
Agree.
Way, way better than the white elephant game. I'm glad we're on this. Buy or sell. Ham which is often the Christmas food, is better than turkey.
I'll buy that. I'll definitely buy that. Honey baked ham on Christmas is elite. I'm not at the point where I'm going to say I'd rather have ham on Thanksgiving. Not there yet. But if you remove Thanksgiving from the equation and you're asking me ham or turkey, I'm going to say ham. So, yeah, I'll
take it a step further.
Yeah.
It's a take of mine that I live by. Christmas has better food than Thanksgiving.
Buy.
Oh, yes.
Buy.
Yes.
Bye.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I agree. They're both great, though. Like, Thanksgiving isn't bad food. But, yeah, I think Christmas is much better. Oftentimes, like, at my Christmas parties, we have both. We have ham and turkey, and same thing for Thanksgiving. But I think I just like the side. Like, I like a pig in a blanket. I like those. I like the little finger foods that you get. The cookies are phenomenal. I'll take the cookies over a slice of pie. The Christmas cookies over a Thanksgiving pie. I think I'm on board. Maybe I'm just too in on Christmas. I'm just really in on Christmas that I think that way. But thank you so much playing that game. Try some eggnog this year.
Okay, I will. I'll try.
Try some eggnog. Yeah. I don't know if you'll like it.
Okay.
It's people said it's melted ice cream. I don't think it tastes like melted ice cream. I think it's got a much different taste than melted ice cream. But it is very fattening. So don't drink too much if you do indeed like it. Foodie like you, I'm surprised you haven't tried eggnog. Guys, thank you so much. Hopefully you guys have a very Merry Christmas for everyone that's I hope your families get together. I hope it's a really joyous time. I hope there's no fights. I hope you get a nice present. I hope the people that you care about, you get them something nice, because that's often the best part of Christmas is when you make someone's day. Thank you so much to Kirby for coming on, and really everyone. I got to see Craig Stanlin earlier this week. It's a great time. Merry Christmas, Stone.
Merry Christmas.
Hopefully everyone stays healthy. Hopefully everyone is doing okay. And I hope you guys have a very, very blessed Christmas. And remember the whole point of this whole thing. I'm not going to do the whole Christian thing, but remember the whole point of the season. And just remember that this is supposed to be a time of love. So, love. See you guys. Stone Shield Show coming up.
All right, here we go. Welcome into the Stone Shield Show. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us here on the eve of Christmas Eve. Hopefully everybody's getting ready for Christmas, having a great time, spending time with friends and family, and we appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us here on Wednesday. Friendly reminder, no show tomorrow, no show on Christmas Day. We will be back on Friday. I have a guest lined up for the Friday show there as well, so looking forward to that and hope you can join us on Friday. Podcasts, of course, will be out later this afternoon. Clips on YouTube, social media, you can find those all across all of our pages throughout the course of the next few days, so be on the lookout for that. But appreciate everybody joining us here on a Tuesday. Gordon Wittenmeyer from the Cincinnati Enquirer, Cincinnati.com. He's going to stop by in about 10 minutes. We're going to talk Cincinnati Reds. We're going to talk Luis Roberts. We're going to talk Hunter Green. We're going to talk Kyle Schwarber, whether or not the Reds were actually close and actually had a real shot at getting Kyle Schwarber. Bullpen, offense, Tito, we're going to talk about it all, so looking forward to having Gordon on the show in about 10 minutes, so make sure you stick around for that. Also, I'm going to briefly talk about a report that came out from Adam Schefter within the past week about the Dolphins reportedly offering the Cincinnati Bengals 4 first-round draft picks for Joe Burrow back in 2020. Cincinnati said no. Great decision by them. Certainly has worked out in favor of the Bengals. We'll roll through our NFL power rankings. Some changes, of course. Some of the top teams getting defeated over the course of the past weekend, and a great Monday Night Football game. We'll talk about that there as well. Brock Purdy looked outstanding in the game last night, and so did Grandpa Phil. Phillip Rivers played really well, too, but the defense, it looked like the Lou Anarumo defense of last year here in Cincinnati, and some sports headlines to wrap up today's show. I'm certainly looking forward to that. Ryan Day going to be calling plays for the Buckeyes in the playoffs. Don't know if that's necessarily the best thing in the world for Ohio State, but we'll talk about that along with some other things. But I do want to start today's show. Jay Morrison put out a post right before we went live yesterday sharing some real unfortunate news about his wife. Won't really dive into the specifics. It's up on his Twitter page. Of course, I'm sure all over his social media pages there as well, and just want to send our thoughts and prayers and best wishes to certainly him and his 2 kids. Just a great guy. Jay Morrison does a terrific job covering the Cincinnati Bengals. He's done it for a long time, was at The Athletic for a while, now working over at Cincinnati BengalsTalk.com, and has done a great job. And just one of the true great guys in this business. I personally have not had him on this show, but we've had him on off the bench. He's certainly a friend of ours here at Chatterbox, and we're wishing him nothing but the best. A really difficult, tragic time. And, the timing, something like that's never great, obviously, but, here in Christmas week, too, we got a lot of heavy hearts here at Chatterbox, and we want to send our best wishes to Jay Morrison. We're thinking about him. We love him, praying for him, and thinking about his family during this trying time. So I wanted to give Jay a little bit of a shout-out here on today's show. Zach Taylor did it at the end of his press conference yesterday, unprompted. Thought that was a very classy move by Zach, who certainly is a very classy guy there as well. So we're thinking about Jay, and we appreciate all he's done for us, and wish him nothing but the best over the course of these next few weeks. But let's transition a little bit here into the Cincinnati Bengals, of course. And as I mentioned at the top, there was a report that came out from Adam Schefter that said the Miami Dolphins back in 2020 offered 4 first-round picks. If you remember, the Miami Dolphins had the number 2 overall selection in the draft. Of course, they drafted Tua Tagovailoa, who was benched before last week's game against the Cincinnati Bengals in favor of a 7th-round rookie, Quinn Ewers. Tua, of course, is on a massive deal, and things really started positively. As a rookie, he's been a part of a lot of wins. He's been a part of a lot of high-flying offenses with Mike McDaniel, but here over the course of the past few weeks, certainly, and really throughout the duration of the year to this point, he's turning the football over at an absurd rate, and he's already got limitations to his game, right? Certainly from a size perspective and an arm strength perspective there as well. One thing that he could always hang his hat on was that he's going to be really accurate with the football. He's going to play with a lot of timing and rhythm, and he is going to protect the football there as well. When you have a guy that isn't really capable of making spectacular plays, and he is turning over the football at a clip higher than anybody else in the National Football League, it is a real issue. But this report came out, and you have to understand how much these NFL teams value not only their draft picks, but specifically their first-round draft picks, right? You've seen a couple of moves here this offseason. The Micah Parsons move, 2 first-round picks. Micah's a heck of a player, outstanding player, as a closer, a difference maker on the defensive side of the football, but 2 first-round picks, that's a ton, right? And then, of course, at the deadline, Indianapolis, which looks like a horrible move here as they're about to miss the playoffs, they moved 2 first-round picks for a corner in Sauce Gardner. So these teams are very hesitant to move off their draft picks. Remember, Bengals couldn't even get a first-round pick for Trey Henderson. I understand he's up there in age, right? But he was the runner-up to the Defensive Player of the Year last year, and he couldn't even get a first-round pick for him. So the Miami Dolphins, reportedly, back in 2020, were willing to give up 4 first-round picks to move up 1 spot in the NFL draft to pick Joe Burrow. And I'm going to be honest with you. If I was the Cincinnati Bengals and I'm sitting here looking at these quarterbacks going, I could get four first-round picks and give up Joe Burrow, of course, but still land either Tua or Justin Herbert. Obviously, as we sit here several years later in 2025, about to be 2026, Justin Herbert would be the guy you would take over Tua. But in that moment, I don't know. I probably would have, kicked the tires certainly on it and maybe not immediately shut down. Apparently the Bengals were like, yeah, we got no interest, stop. But imagine being like, okay, we're not going to do it for 4 and seeing how far Miami could take this or make things public. Like, yeah, we're willing to trade out of this pick. So Bengals organization's a complete mess. We drag them through the mud all the time, rightfully so. But you got to give them a lot of credit because clearly here, I understand the injury issues for Joe Burrow, his inability to be on the field certainly as much as he would like, as much as the staff would like, as much as us fans would like. Getting 4 first-round picks thrown at you to only move back 1 spot in a draft and still pick a potential franchise guy with Justin Herbert and 2 on the board, and Cincinnati said absolutely not. So they deserve a ton of credit for that. They clearly were right in this spot, right? I don't think there's anybody, regardless of the injuries that Joe Burrow has sustained over the course of his career, that would say, oh, yeah, I wish the Bengals had 4 first-round picks instead of Joe Burrow here at this point. So that report came out. It's very interesting. I mean, 4 first-round picks. That's not 2. That's not 3. 4 first-round picks. I mean, you could get Pro Bowlers there. You could get guys that significantly alter your roster and in 2020 still have an opportunity to draft a franchise guy. So I thought that was very interesting to get that report. 4 first-round picks. And the Bengals were like, no, we got our guy in Joe Burrow, and they were absolutely right. The question, of course, becomes, would you do it now? I think most people would say no, right? Justin Herbert, he's taken a lot of punishment. He's missed some time, right? Justin Herbert's an unbelievable player. I think a lot of people believe he could be the quarterback of a team that wins the Super Bowl. Let's not say he's better than Joe Burrow. Let's not put him in that, category of elite talents. And you also understand, it's the Cincinnati Bengals, you need a special guy at that position to overcome some of the other obstacles that you have on your team and some of the other shortcomings that you have on your team. So brilliant job by the Cincinnati Bengals to sit there and know what they had in Joe Burrow. And, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't all gung-ho on Joe Burrow when he was coming out of LSU, right? I mean, he had a fantastic year, but, he didn't face much pressure, had obviously Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. I didn't necessarily view him as a guy that was a can't-miss guy and was going to be like one of the best players of all time. Thought he'd be solid, but he definitely has done a lot more than I expected him to do in this period of time. So the Bengals deserve some credit for that. Again, interested to know what other people think. Do you think that they should have taken the 4 first-round picks? Right? There's no guarantee with these picks, right? I mean, look at Myles Murphy, I think, is a good example, right? Myles Murphy stunk for the majority of his career, and now he's seemingly turned it around, and now he looks like a guy where it's like, yeah, we would like him to be back next year. We would like him to be a starter on our team next year. But would you take 4 Myles Murphys instead of Joe Burrow? I know I certainly wouldn't, right? And when you pick in the first round, right, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a top 5 pick or a top 10 pick, and it's very difficult to hit each and every pick out of the park, especially when you're a team like the Cincinnati Bengals who has struggled so much to get guys correct as far as drafting the right people in the draft, and particularly early in the draft, right? The Bengals have had success when they have these can't-miss guys, Joe Burrow, of course, Jamar Chase, right? But there's other guys like Dax Hill. I was a fan of the Bengals picking up the 5th-year option. I think he could be a winning player. I think he could be a starter on a team that makes a championship run. But again, would you take 4 Dax Hills for Joe Burrow? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Does Dax Hill, he's a solid player, can be a starter in this league? Does he look like a first-round talent? No, I don't think he does. So there's no guarantee with these draft picks. There's no guarantee that would be a great decision. I am very curious to how much Cincinnati could up it, right? Would Miami continue to say, oh, what about 5 picks? What about 6 picks? What about 7 picks? How far would they push it? But that is crazy. One, that Miami knew what Joe Burrow was, even with guys like Tua and Justin Herbert who had great college careers available to be drafted. They knew how much better Joe Burrow was than those other 2. And credit to Cincinnati because they clearly did as well. They had their guy, that first overall selection, Ohio guy, Joe Burrow. They knew what they had in him. They went out and picked him, and it really couldn't have worked out any better for the Cincinnati Bengals. You wish, you have your fingers crossed, you wish he could have stayed healthy a little bit more. You wish he had been a little bit more available. But Zach Taylor says this all the time, and I completely agree. There's not a player or a pick that you would give up now for Joe Burrow. You absolutely would not. So obviously, hopefully he can stay a Cincinnati Bengal for a really long time. But very interesting, that report came out from Adam Schefter, right, so many years later. And I know I keep saying it, but 4 first-round picks to move back one spot. I mean, if you told us to do that in 2020, I would have said, sign me up. Are you kidding me? 4 first-round picks, and we get to still pick second and pick either Tua or Justin Herbert. Again, Tua clearly not a starter in the NFL or not a winning starter in the NFL at this stage of his career. But the opportunities were there to do it. Credit to Cincinnati. They ultimately didn't do it. We'll see if Tua, by the way, can find another landing spot. I definitely think the injuries have caught up to him. That's very, very clear, right? The punishment that some of these guys take, like they can't withstand it better than some of these taller, more physical guys, right? A guy like Kyler Murray, right? Or a guy like Russell Wilson. Remember, he just kind of fell off a cliff out of nowhere. This is a guy that, wins a Super Bowl early in his career, and people view him to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And it's like, I don't even know if this guy can be a backup. Literally fell off a cliff. I think that tends to happen with some guys that are smaller in stature and have been hit a lot. I think you're seeing that with Tua, right? I mean, you break him down as a player, and it's like, well, his arm's not very good. He's not very mobile. When he's outside the pocket, bad things tend to happen as opposed to good things tend to happen. Right? He's had all the concussions, and clearly he's not the same player he was early in his career, and that's just kind of a shelf life for a guy in Tua Tagovailoa who's a smaller guy. And Joe Burrow, guys like Justin Herbert, they can withstand some of the hits that they've taken over the course of their careers, and that sets them up for a better position to have more longevity in this game. But Bengals should be very thankful that they didn't entertain the idea of giving up four first-round picks. It's funny, they were cutting to the owner there during the game on Sunday, and you could just tell he was up there like, oh, boy, what the heck are we going to do at this quarterback spot? Because, the Dolphins, after you bench a guy like Tua, these situations like Bryce Young in Carolina where you can just come back and you just sit down for a little bit and then ultimately you're the starter again, that doesn't really happen. I would say Tua's time as the starter in Miami is certainly done. And if you're another NFL team, especially with that contract, nobody's going to trade for him. Obviously, he could get cut and then picked up. But if you're an NFL team, do you feel great about Tua being your quarterback? He can't overcome much. He needs certainly weaponry around him, and he needs an elite offensive line, an elite run game, and elite defense, right? And that certainly doesn't add up to the money that the Dolphins are paying him here at this point. But did think that was a very interesting story that kind of broke recently from Adam Schefter as it relates to Joe Burrow. And the Bengals potentially moving off that first-round pick, but they did not entertain it whatsoever. And I think things have worked out pretty well for Cincinnati over the course of the past few years. You wish you stayed a little bit healthier, but they clearly have their franchise guy in Joe Burrow. All right, it is time to welcome in our guest. It is time to talk a little Cincinnati Reds baseball, and it is my pleasure to welcome in Gordon Wittenmeyer. Does a tremendous job covering the Cincinnati Reds for the Inquirer and Cincinnati.com. Gordon, how are we doing? Thanks for making some time on a Christmas week here, and appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Apologize for I'm en route today. Got a lot going on. I think I only got a day and a half, 1.5 shopping days left.
Still got some work to do?
Which means I just started.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you making some time. It looks like you're pulled over there, and thank you so much for making some time. Hopefully you get your shopping figured out here. You still got some time, right? You're cutting it a little close, but you still got some time. And thanks for making some time for us here at the show. Let's dive in here. Lots going on around the Cincinnati Reds. You wrote a piece last night for Cincinnati.com in the Inquirer. I want to spend a lot of time talking about Luis Robert here on the show. That's kind of the hot name right now. The Reds, of course, were connected to him about a year ago, but those talks didn't really go anywhere. And now, all of a sudden, the contract is a little bit more friendlier. You could get out of it after 1 year. What are you hearing on the Reds and Luis Robert? Do they have a real chance at landing him here?
Yeah, I think so. The contract in some ways isn't any friendlier because it was a 1 year contract and a buyout last year.
Okay.
Too.
Yeah.
One of the differences, there's a couple big differences here from a Red standpoint. One, the White Sox are, I think, much more incentivized to pay this thing down, and if they can pick up half of it, half of the $20 million that he's owed this year, you start to think you might be able to squeeze that into a tight payroll budget. And then from the Reds standpoint, they went after Kyle Schwarber, which was, I think, by all accounts, the ideal fit for this team, a team that has so much starting pitching, coming off a playoff run. And really just needs that one big bat in the middle of the lineup. Anything else that you would improve with the lineup is around the edges of the hitting and maybe fielding. Well, this guy's also a Gold Glove center fielder, so he's going to upgrade your. This is all contingent upon him staying on the field, of course, because he's had injury history. So there's a fit here for the baseball player that might be sort of more worth the risk this year than maybe it was last year because of what's available, what you didn't get done with Schwarber, where you are now, knowing what Francona did for this team in the first year, getting to the playoffs, and what that he's got a ceiling like few guys who are available out there. And when you talk about the short-term commitment that might come in at closer to 10 million than 20 million, then it starts to, then you just can't find that ceiling anywhere else out there in the marketplace. And that's what becomes so enticing for this team at this place. What I've been told is there had been an offer earlier in the offseason from the Reds that the White Sox needed another player thrown into the mix. I don't know yet who the exact players were. And where they stand on it now. I know that they continue to talk. They've, I think it could be done. One source told me that it could be done as soon as this week if it gets done. Now, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Or not, and it gets, and it goes another 2 weeks, so you take those kind of things for what it's worth. But it does suggest to me at least that there's some serious discussions going on here.
You mentioned a potential package in your piece last night as well, throughout guys like Chase Petty and Brandon Williamson.
Well, I mentioned names. I wasn't trying to suggest that this guy or any of these guys.
Yeah, but in your opinion, what do you think a potential package could look like? Because you look at Luis Robert, he's got that high ceiling, as you mentioned, but you kind of look at he's hovering around 220, batting average-wise, hasn't been able to stay on the field certainly as well. So in your opinion, what could a potential package look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's a risk. Look, there were a lot of people that were surprised they picked up the $20 million option on him. And as soon as they did, you knew that this was all about a trade scenario at this point. And a lot of people thought, well, maybe they take him into the season and hope that he gets off to a good enough start. You can move him, keep him healthy, puts up some numbers, move him at the deadline. You get some value out of picking up that option, and you get it mitigated because it's prorated.
Yeah.
By the time somebody picks him up with a third left in the season. Now, we knew they were going to shop him. We just didn't know what the marketplace might be. So if he's still a risk. So if they, as a $10 million player, he's less of a risk. But now I've also got to give up players to get him. How many players am I going to give up? I'm not going to give up a premium for this guy because there's just as much likelihood that he plays 100 games as 140 games. In fact, his track record would suggest it's a higher likelihood. And on top of that, he hit 220-something each of the last 2 years.
Right.
He showed some power when he did hit, but like he always has. But what guarantee is there that they don't get the same thing he's done the last 2 years? Hits 220, plays 100 games. That's not a $10 million player to the Reds, certainly not at the cost of high-value prospects or a big package. But there are guys at the end of their pitching depth. There are guys like Chase Petty got a debut last year. He was a highly regarded prospect. I think despite his struggles when he came up in those two starts, or those two appearances, I can't remember if they were both starts, that he still has a bright potential future. He might be a guy. Julian Aguilar, coming off Tommy John surgery, he got a debut a couple of years ago because there was a great need. And a lot of guys were getting churned through that rotation at the end of the year. So there might not be a place for him.
Yeah.
If Chase Burns pays off, if Rhett Lauder's back, they've already got 4 or 5 guys that they carry over from last year's rotation. So he may not have a place. Maybe he's a guy that he gets something out of a trade like that. the Reds get something back that they can use now. Those are the types of things. Like, if it's going to take more than one guy, but you're not going to give up in all likelihood Alfredo Duno, who's the hot catcher at A-ball, or certainly Sal Stewart's off limits. But there might be a way to put a package together that doesn't really hurt. The Reds have some good players in the system, and if you're going against the Mets, what the Mets can offer is to pick up more of the money, if not all of the money.
Right.
And the Mets are the other team that I'm hearing is talking to the White Sox. But you can beat them on the prospects, and really, where the White Sox sit right now, it's not as important to them that somebody picks up the entire contract. They wouldn't have, if that were the case, they just wouldn't have picked up the option. This is about they're trying to get somewhere in the next couple of years. So you should be able to beat the Mets on the package you can offer if you want this guy.
You mentioned the White Sox, good chance that they would pay some of his salary. Can you explain that a little bit? Do you believe that they will pay close to half of his salary if it comes to that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they just they're sitting in a position of their projected salary is pretty low right now, even after signing the guy from Japan, the power hitter from Japan, 2-year, $34 million deal. They don't have a lot on the books. They got Benintendi falling off the books, I think, after this year. He's the highest paid free agent they've ever spent on, and he's a $15 million a year guy. I don't know if it's backloaded and he gets more this year or not. But they've got enough money. To them, the value in this is, look, we paid $20 million to hold on to an asset we might be able to move for something that's going to help us win in the future. Maybe the near future. That's the value of that $20 million. That's what they spent the $20 million on. So whoever they get in return for him, if they have to pay $10 million, then they've spent $10 million to get those guys. And so that's pretty high value. If they can turn Luis Robert at $20 million as a guy who's on their roster for $20 million, into a $10 million outlay for, let's say, 2-3 prospects where you feel real good about one of them, that's value to the White Sox.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. One thing I've always said since the season ended was that, in my opinion, that's a successful year that you had last year for the Cincinnati Reds. You made the playoffs, hadn't done that in a while, first year with Tito. Thought it was overall a successful season. But one thing they needed to do was make sure they didn't just run it back with the same group and make sure that they made some adjustments to try to, potentially get out of the wild card round going forward. If they miss on Robert, what is the likelihood that they sit there and say, you know what, offensively, we're just going to run it back with the same bats that we have?
No, I think they're looking at a bunch of fronts.
Okay.
Again, I like the Robert idea as a way to get creative, to try to capitalize on his ceiling. And remember, he's 28 years old. He'll be 28 when the season starts. That's a traditional prime year for a guy. So if he's healthy, there's no reason to think you can't get what he's capable of, especially in that ballpark for a hitter. So I like the idea of him as a ceiling play. But if they don't get him, they're still working a lot of other fronts here. I did a thing late last week where I threw out 4 trade guys and 4 free agents that could be fits with their budget. And some of them are creative. Like some of them are like super creative and kind of reaching for the stars type of thing, like Wilson Contreras, who's already moved on to the Red Sox. But Luis Robert was one of them. But there's free agents on the list too. I think they're going to try, even if it's more along the lines of what they did last year. Remember when they and again, it was a little bit different emphasis last year because they didn't have that young core, didn't have the playoff experience. You're bringing in Terry Francona. You're bringing in a different coaching staff. And now you want some guys in the clubhouse that have been there, done that. So they go get Jose Trevino. They go get Gavin Lutz. These are opportunity trades that they go get, and then they sign Austin Hayes near the end of the offseason. Those are the kinds I could see. Those levels of moves where they try to put together a combination that they can afford, that and maybe even another upside possibility. So Scott Boras at the winter meetings included the Reds as being interested in Cody Bellinger. Well, I'm 1,000% positive. Yes, they talked to him, but they talked to everybody.
Sure.
And sure, they'd be interested in him. Can they afford him? Is somebody can they outbid somebody for him? No, no, not where people think his market is. But these are the kind of things they're exploring everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to stand pat.
Okay. Let's talk Elly here for a second. Lots been made of him in the World Baseball Classic. He reported that he told Albert Pujols that he's in, he's ready to go. And then the Reds, of course, there's been some rumblings that actually the Reds don't want him to play. What's kind of the latest on Elly in the World Baseball Classic?
Well, it's not just the Reds. There's some other people close to him that wonder if that's the best thing for him. But it is something he wants to do. My understanding is he's officially on that roster now. And the Reds people have told me that this is up to the player. I mean, the team can't say you can't play.
Okay.
Unless you're injured, unless an injury comes into play. And he's fully recovered from that strained hamstring or quad, the left quad, I think, that he had over the last couple of months of last year. So I don't think there's any injury issues here that would prevent him from playing. If he wants to play, he's going to play. Is it the best thing for this team competitively? We can debate that. You want to go get a beer and talk about that? I mean, we could talk because there's two sides to it. I mean, he's going to be motivated to represent his country.
Yeah.
It'll be a first opportunity for him to do that. Sometimes that can be a growth thing for a guy. Especially a hitter, like you're more reluctant to have your pitchers go because so many bad things can happen to pitchers. Hell, Edwin Diaz lost a season and it wasn't even from pitching.
Right.
But the other side of it, of course, is that you ramp up really quick to be that competitive with the juices flowing that hard early March, and then you come back. Get ready for the season. It takes something out of you by the time the season starts. That's the other side of it. I don't think it's a big deal. This is a guy who played every day last year, like it or not.
Yep.
And most of us watching it, and I think Francona, in retrospect, didn't like it.
Yeah.
Going forward, he's going to get scheduled rest.
Yeah.
And so I don't think as a workload issue, it's something that you've got to factor in if he goes and plays in the WBC, but they were already going to factor in rest for him. And it might even help them sell him on it because he's not a guy that likes to sit even for a day.
Absolutely. So from an injury perspective, from what you know, it's all good and he should be good for spring training?
Yeah. As we sit here right now, yes.
Yeah. So the Reds re-signed Emilio Pagan, of course, signed Caleb Ferguson there as well. Do you think they feel comfortable now with where their bullpen's at, or do you think we can expect a couple of more additions as far as big league players go?
I think we'll see depth there, depending on how they address the hitter. Because right now, I mean, look, they got an experienced lefty who was just in the playoffs this past October. Whatever you might have thought of his performance, and he's a veteran. They needed that. They desperately needed that as a way to help upgrade their bullpen, and obviously getting Pagan back. They have to focus on the hitter now, and wherever they go with that, I mean, if it's possible, they might free up payroll space by trading one of their many arbitration eligible guys. And if they do something like that, maybe that's included in a trade for the hitter you get back. So there, we'll see where the resources wind up by the time they get the hitter done. They got to get the hitter done first. If there's something left, I could see trying to pick through the discount bin at the end of the offseason for another big league reliever. What you'll see for sure is some guys with big league experience come in on minor league deals with a chance to be either depth in the wings at AAA or maybe have a shot to earn one of the spots at the end of the bullpen, or not the end of the bullpen, but in the middle of the bullpen.
Sure. Real quickly on Kyle Schwarber. Obviously, the Reds missed on Kyle Schwarber. I kind of expected, just kind of the history of the Reds, really just Cincinnati sports, that the offer that they would give him would be kind of embarrassing or borderline disrespectful. But I'm looking at this offer. I'm like, for a DH, that's great. That's more than fair. It honestly shocked me that they gave him that kind of offer. Do you think there was a real chance that they could have landed him? Was Schwarber actually thinking about this? I know he met with ownership in the front office. You think he was just going through the motions, or was there a real world where he was going to sign here in Cincinnati?
I've known Kyle Schwarber as a baseball writer covers a player since he was drafted.
Yep.
I covered the Cubs when he got drafted. He's been, in my experience, the same person from day one to what he is now, and he is extremely highly regarded in the game for as a teammate, as a clubhouse guy, for his integrity. I don't think he's playing anybody.
Yeah.
What I do think was the case was, if anybody was going to get him who wasn't the Phillies, it might have been the Reds.
Yeah.
I don't know where else would have been attractive to him to go. I do know that these guys he's 32, so he's coming up on this. He got the 4-year deal with the Phillies. That was his first free agent contract, multi-year. And so this was his last shot at free agency. To see if he wants to go somewhere, to see what's out there, to maybe get a bigger contract than he did last time. And he was a hot commodity. The Phillies said to him, go see what your market is. He said, I'm going to go see what my market is. They said, don't sign with anybody before you talk to us. We want you back. We love you. Ownership, front office, guys in the clubhouse, they all love him. And by the way, they've never not made the playoffs with him.
Right.
And I don't think that that's a coincidence. So they were always going to get a shot. They were always the favorites for him, and they were always going to match whatever offer was out there, as long as it wasn't like $800 million.
Right.
And in fact, they matched the Orioles offer, and that's what got him back in Philly. So that said, I think the 5-year 125 that the Reds put out there, that was a legit offer.
Oh, yeah. And
going into the offseason, you'd say, maybe that gets it done. We were hearing early in the week at the winter meetings that the issue was going to be the 5th year, and they had the 5th year on the table already. So I give the Reds some credit for making an offer that, to use your words, was not embarrassing.
Right.
And at the end of the day, they weren't going to beat the Phillies. They were going to have to hope that they made a competitive offer and that playing at home meant something to him, meant enough to him that he would take a good, strong offer to go play for his hometown team, because really this is going to be the last chance he has to do that and make a difference. That's what you were banking on. If there was a team besides the Phillies that were going to get Kyle Schwarber, I think it would have been the Reds. But that said, I think that's just how likely it always was that he was going to go to the Phillies.
Last question for you here, Gordon, before we let you go. I want to talk Spencer Steer real quick. There's some people here at this company that think he's not a good player. I think he's a very good player.
What?
I think yes, I know. I can't believe it. I think he's great.
He's one of my favorite players just because he's a baseball player.
Yes,
I
he's
like
a ball
the
player.
way he plays.
Yes, I agree. And you can put him anywhere. I get prototypically or stereotypically he's not the first baseman that you would draw up in your mind, but I mean, he was a Gold Glove finalist. He did great over there, in my opinion.
Right?
Where do you think the Reds would like him to play, and how does that factor into Sal Stewart, of course, who hasn't really found that spot where he's comfortable defensively? Of course, the Reds wanted to put him in the lineup in the postseason to have his bat in there, but you always were a little bit worried about, okay, where are you going to put him on defense, and how is that going to affect the team? How is the team going to manage those two guys defensively in 26?
I think you're asking the exact right question when it comes to Spencer Steer, because the way he handled first base for a team that has defensive deficiencies in a lot of places was a big part of them winning.
Right.
I think that gets overlooked.
It does.
When you have a first baseman who does the kind of things that he did last year and shows the kind of athleticism around the bag that he showed, and he got better as the year went on over there, you make the rest of your infield better. Because, I mean, he was picking throws. I remember covering a guy that won a platinum glove in Chicago, Anthony Rizzo, and he told he had guys with 3 different kinds of arms across that infield. And he said, just don't throw it over my head.
Mm-hmm.
I'll catch everything else. And that's what Spencer did. He caught everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like I said, that makes the rest of the infield better. And so you would think moving forward that ideally you'd like to leave him there.
Right.
But we keep hearing over and over again, no matter who you ask, well, it kind of depends on what our roster looks like by then. Or there's value to him moving around too. All of that's true. But I think it's all about Sal Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you think Sal Stewart's in your plans, he can't play third base.
Right.
You got a Gold Glover over there in Brian Hayes. And if Hayes hits at all, then he's a plus addition to your lineup just because of what he does in the field. There's no other place to play Sal Stewart but first base. And you're probably not going to commit the DH spot to him every day. You might run him through there more regularly than some other guys, depending on what your injury situation is. But that's why we keep hearing, well, Steer might move around again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because if you've got Sal Stewart in your plans, where the hell else is he going to play?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I think it's a great question. It'll be fascinating to see how the Reds tackle it here in spring training and, of course, into the year there as well. Gordon, I appreciate the heck out of you making some time here. Why don't you let everybody know what you got going on at the Inquirer, Cincinnati.com, and, of course, where we can find you on social media.
Look for me at GWMLB, and I should have another story or two coming out in the next few days or a week, not even counting any breaking news.
Yeah,
so
awesome. Well, thank you so much for making some time here on Christmas week. That was great insight. We appreciate you, and would love to do it again sometime, man. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
You got it. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Merry Christmas.
Gordon Wittenmeyer, Cincinnati.com, and the Inquirer does a terrific job covering the Cincinnati Reds. Some great insight there on potentially Luis Robert, getting a deal done with him. Some stuff there on Spencer Steer, and of course Sal Stewart there as well. So that interview will be out later this afternoon. We appreciate Gordon Wittenmeyer making some time for us here on the show. Thank you, Gordon, and Merry Christmas to you and your family, of course, there as well. All right, we got about 20 minutes left here on the show. I do want to dive into our NFL Power Rankings. We do it every Tuesday here at the show. We got some shakeups near the top, and without further ado, let's hop right in here. Making their debut in the rankings at the number 10 spot is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, we're all Bengals people. I don't like doing it, but it's very clear to me that they have separated themselves from the rest of the pack in the AFC North. And the way Aaron Rodgers is playing football right now, the defense has improved. They're running the football with Jalen Warren. I don't know if they're going to be an easy out in the playoffs. It feels a little bit different this go-around than years past, where it's like, oh, Mike Tomlin, the Steelers, they have this winning record. They go in and get shellacked in the first round. Well, obviously, they're going to have a home playoff game, assuming they hold on and win the AFC North. And then you're probably facing a team like the Chargers, maybe perhaps the Bills there as well. And I think there's a real world where the Pittsburgh Steelers can pull off a victory at home with Aaron Rodgers. He really is playing at a very high level here at this point, and I've got them checking in to our power rankings at that number 10 spot. At number 9, I've got the Chicago Bears, Reed Mouse's Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams, say what you want about him, but he's playing some winning football now at this point for Chicago. He's really improved. The completion percentage, certainly not where a lot of people would like it. It was hovering around that 50% mark for much of the game against the Green Bay Packers. That is not ideal, but you got to give him some flowers. Made some big-time plays there at the end of that game after they recovered that onside kick. Made some big plays in overtime, and, of course, the game winner to DJ Moore, which I'm not quite sure DJ hauled in, but they didn't even review it, and it was a heck of a play by both those guys, and Chicago was able to pull off the win against Green Bay there in that spot. So they're staying pat at the number 9 spot for me. I know they have a really good record. I know there's a world where they get the 1 seed, but I'm not ready to put them above the number 9 spot for me. I still got Chicago there down near the bottom. I don't trust them. Wouldn't surprise me if they're a one and done. Ben Johnson deserves a heck of a lot of credit for what he's done, but I don't really view them as a team that's a big-time threat. But maybe they'll make me eat crow here as we continue to progress. But I got the Bears at 9. Checking in at number 8, the Denver Broncos. Had them at 2 last week. We were kind of hesitant to go all in on the Broncos, right? And then they have a huge win against Green Bay, and it's like, okay, looks like the Denver Broncos actually are, in fact, the real deal. But I've got them slipping down to the 8th spot. Lots of red flags in the game against Jacksonville. They lost by 2 scores at home. Speaks to how good the Jags are, certainly. Bo Nix, I think, still is trending in the right direction, but if you find them, or if they find themselves in a game where they have to score a lot of points, I don't know exactly how I feel about them. And defensively, elite defense, of course, but do you put them up there with the Seahawks and the Texans? I don't know. I feel like they're a tick a little bit below that. Gave up 34 points on defense. Again, kind of feels like they might be a year early to the party, the Denver Broncos. They're going to be good for a long time going forward. I feel like next year is really when they can become a true Super Bowl contender, but of course they could still very well have a bye in the AFC and be the number 1 overall seed and have home field advantage. If that's the case, you'd be silly to write them off. But I've got them checking in at the 8th spot here this week. 7, the Buffalo Bills. Last week I had them at 5. They beat Cleveland in Cleveland 23-20. Look, the Browns stink, but going to Cleveland and winning decisively is difficult. Plus 10.5 was one of our best bets of the weekend last week. It's just kind of tough to go into Cleveland this time of year and blow them out. They're so one-dimensional. Buffalo, they're so reliant on Josh Allen. You talk about these teams in the NFL, if their starting quarterback goes down, just how much in trouble they are, right? The Bengals, you saw it for a while. The Ravens, of course, with Lamar. I mean, the Buffalo Bills are literally Josh Allen. They're the Josh Allen Bills is really what they are. So if they lose him, they're absolutely cooked. But given the state of the AFC, there's not really an elite defense, right? You can throw Denver in there. There's some solid defenses, but there's not a defense that you feel comfortable about going out there and stopping Josh Allen. I don't know if there's a defense that exists that can do that, but with him at the helm, he's going to be the best quarterback in the playoffs, and think this is probably their best opportunity just because it's not necessarily the best team they have. It's definitely not the best team they have. They got holes all over the place, but no Mahomes, probably no Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow. It's Josh Allen and a bunch of youngsters. You got to feel good about Buffalo there in that spot, despite the fact that they're probably going to have to go on the road, obviously, not winning the division, as New England's going to take that. But I've got the Buffalo Bills checking in at number 7. They dropped down a few spots because it's really just Josh Allen. Jaguars at 6. Kind of came out of nowhere. We've been on the Jaguars for a little bit now. I've always been a believer in Trevor Lawrence. Dan Orlovsky said this on ESPN. I think it's a great point. They don't give out the most improved player in the NFL. That's not an award they give out, but if they did, it would be Trevor Lawrence. He's been awesome. He finally has some stability at that head coaching spot. Credit to Shad Khan and that ownership group for being patient and getting Liam Cohen. Remember, they were going to get Liam Cohen, and he's like, I'm not coming here with that GM. They fired the GM, brought in a new GM. Ultimately, they get Liam Cohen to come over, and everybody's talking about Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel and Kyle Shanahan, and those guys deserve a ton of credit, but Liam Cohen, Coach of the Year guy, what he's been doing in Jacksonville is awesome. Nobody thought this roster was going to make the playoffs, much less have a chance of getting the number 1 overall seed. Their high pick, Travis Hunter, he goes down. We haven't seen him in months, and they're playing good on defense. They're running the ball. Lawrence is playing the best he's ever played in his career. There's a big reason to believe that a team like, obviously, the Jacksonville Jaguars can mess around in this AFC and cause some damage. There's a world where they play the Chargers in the first round of the playoffs, which we saw that several years ago. What a come-from-behind victory that was for Jacksonville with Doug Peterson and company. New look this year, but I think the Jaguars are a threat here. And, I don't know, going into Jacksonville, does that scare you if you're another team? Absolutely not. They're a good football team. They deserve a lot of credit. We'll see if they can finish strong. Coming in at number 5, the Seattle Seahawks. Last week I had them at 7. I'm still lower on Seattle than many other people are. They beat the Rams in overtime by a point. Deserve credit for that. They were at home. I still don't think they're better than the Rams, right? They've split now. They're 1-1. The playoffs, I wouldn't be taking the Seahawks. I don't think they're better than the Niners either, to be completely honest with you. But they won the game. They deserve credit for that. I had them low last week at 7. I have them low now at 5. Many other people would say I'm crazy for not having higher than that. I just don't trust Sam Darnold. What he's done this year is incredible. What he did last year, certainly incredible there as well. But in the playoff game against some of these quarterbacks in the NFC, guys like Matthew Stafford, right? I don't know. I just don't feel guys like Brock Purdy, even in San Francisco, maybe even a guy like Caleb Williams in Chicago, certainly Jordan Love in Green Bay, if they can make the playoffs and he can be healthy. I don't know. I just don't trust him. And that's holding me back a little bit from Seattle. But that's a defense. They fly around. They make plays. The play-action game is incredible when they get JSN involved. And it's a lot of under-center stuff. That's what their offense is based on with Kubiak. They're in Seattle. They do a nice job of it. But there's other teams in the NFC that concern me a little bit more than the Seahawks as far as scare me from an opposition perspective. But got them at 5. 4, I got the Niners. We've been all over this for a long long time. When Mac was playing, we were all over this. Purdy's back. Purdy looks good. I think he's reminding people, like, okay, that's why they gave me this contract. You can argue, hey, look, he's overpaid. I don't have a problem admitting that. Brock Purdy's a really good player. Brock Purdy's a franchise player. I understand he was the last pick in the draft, right? Mr. Irrelevant. That's all good and fine and dandy. He's a heck of a player, and he's settling in. The toe looks fine. The mobility is there. Mac was great at running the offense. I think he deserves to be a starter in the NFL, but you're seeing the extendability of the plays from Brock Purdy outside the pocket, some of the arm angle stuff. He's a gunslinger, and he was awesome in the game. That's one of the best games, maybe the best game I've seen a quarterback play this year. I think Burrow was trending in that direction in Buffalo, but turned it over twice in the fourth quarter. Don't know if it's really his fault, but start to finish, Brock Purdy was outstanding in the game, and that's a team in the playoffs I wouldn't want to play. Defense, you have questions. You got a bunch of backups out there. You got your Hall of Fame linebacker, he's out, right? You got a stud pass rusher in Bosa, he's out. But you look at this Niner team, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in a second. I mean, they got dudes on offense. I mean, McCaffrey, Hall of Famer. Kittle, Hall of Famer. Warner out, Hall of Famer, right? Shanahan, one of the best coaches in the National Football League. So they're not going to win the division. I actually think they could still potentially win the division if the Rams completely fall off or the Seahawks or one of those two teams. Don't think they've been eliminated from that yet, but the Niners are a fantastic team, and I would not want to play them. I've got them at 4. 3, I got Houston. I understand they look bad offensively this past week against Vegas. Only won that game by 2. Vegas is probably the worst team in the NFL. That's not good. Still believe in the defense, and I still believe in C.J. Stroud in big moments. All he's done in the NFL is win playoff games. One playoff game each year he's been in the league as a starter. So I'm very high on Houston. I think if I'm a different team, I'm more concerned. A team in the AFC, I'm more concerned about Houston than I am Jacksonville, just because that defense is so ferocious, and they're pretty healthy too for the most part. D'Amico's done a nice job as their head coach. So not great that they barely beat Vegas, but good enough to still be at the 3 spot. And then 2 and 1, I've got the New England Patriots at 2. Huge win against Baltimore. We were on Baltimore in that game. Probably goes a little bit differently if Lamar plays the whole game, but Huntley was good. Huntley was great, actually. He didn't really make any mistakes in the game. Just from a competitive intelligence perspective, I think the Patriots are just so buttoned up. Vrabel knows what buttons to push. They don't make critical mistakes. They play good in big moments on 3rd and 4th down. Drake May from the pocket is great, and he's tough and athletic and can move and run you over, jump over you. I mean, Drake May is a heck of a football player. What a pick that was for New England. And McDaniels is doing a great job. And, they don't look as dominant as they did a couple of weeks ago, but they're still in a spot where they believe they can get the number 1 overall seed. And they're not a team you want to play in the playoffs. So I expect them to play well in the postseason. New England at 2. And I still have the Rams at 1. I get they lost. They lost by a point in overtime. There was a crazy, 2-point play that caused that to happen, right? They had a big lead in the fourth quarter, lost it. That's not great. We understand that, but I'm not, if they play again in the playoffs, I'm all over the Rams, right? McVay has done a great job. Stafford is your MVP of the league. Puka, incredible. No Devontae. We'll see when he returns. But the Rams, to me, are still the best team. And they lost by 1 point on the road in Seattle in a short week in overtime. I'm not freaking out on the Rams. And I understand they lost to Carolina too, but I still have Los Angeles at the number 1 spot. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Monday night game last night before we dive into some sports headlines here to close out today's show. Phillip Rivers against Brock Purdy, Niners, Colts. I was wrong on the Colts. Obviously, they lost their quarterback, but I said after they got on this run that, oh, no, that's a real team, and that they're going to get into the postseason, and they're not technically eliminated yet, mathematically eliminated yet from the postseason, but they're not going to make it. Phillip Rivers was great, right? He was awesome. Brock Purdy was better, but 45 years old, grandpa, second start. He's at home and at Lucas Oil. I thought he was tremendous in the game. He can't, throw it down the field like he used to, right? He can't throw it 50 yards probably like he used to. That ball wobbles a little bit when it comes out of his hands. But some of the throws he made, some of the touchdown passes he had, I was really impressed with how Phillip played in the game. I think that was the right move, by the way, for Indy to bring him in, right? Rather than go with a guy like Riley Leonard or an Anthony Richardson or sign some guy off a practice squad somewhere. I think it was the right move by them. It just, they played Seattle and they played the Niners, 2 of the best teams in the league. Kind of ran into a buzzsaw here late in the year. And, I think they're kind of coming back down to life because nobody thought they would make the playoffs before. I bought in, right, when they were winning all these games. I was like, wow, Anarumo's got the defense flying around making plays. That looked like the Bengals early last year with how they were playing defense because I just talked about how great Brock Purdy was, and he was, but that defense was not doing anything correctly last night in Indianapolis. But My takeaway is the Niners are for real. Christian McCaffrey is tremendous. The workload he undergoes is, I mean, they hand him the ball constantly. They had a big lead late in the game, and he was still out there taking punishment, which makes you scratch your head a little bit. But passing game, running the ball in between the tackles, toss sweeps, I mean, he can do it all. And at some point, he's going to show his age. Maybe he has a little bit, but in my opinion, if you need a running back, one game, give me a running back, I'm picking Christian McCaffrey. I honestly am. That guy's absolutely unbelievable. Purdy looks healthy. As I mentioned earlier, he's showing that ability to extend plays. That's an upside that Mac Jones doesn't really have, who played great at the position for him when Purdy was out. But Purdy looks healthy. He cuts it loose. He's aggressive. Purdy's one of those guys, like I was talking about Tua earlier, right? Turning the ball over. I'm okay if Brock Purdy throws a few interceptions. Because he's going to, one, that's just the nature of his game. He's a gunslinger, but he has some big playability. Sometimes it results in something beautiful, right? The one where he's rolling out to his right, firing across his body in the end zone, it's a touchdown. Yeah, in quarterback school, they tell you, probably not do that. Throw it away, live another down. That's not how Brock Purdy's wired. Kind of in some ways, Joe Burrow. I think he can be certainly a little bit more reckless, I guess, with the football than Joe Burrow. But I can live with a few interceptions from Brock Purdy. I can't do that with Tua because there's no real upside to Tua Tagovailoa at the quarterback position. So Brock Purdy's playing his best ball right now. He looks healthy. And, the knock on Purdy before is like he's on this all-star team. I mean, look at their receivers. Like Juwan Jennings, he was a late-round guy, right? And then you got Kendrick Bourne off the street and another guy, Robinson, I never heard of, right? It's not like he's throwing to Pro Bowlers out there. Granted, he has Kittle, who was tremendous, over 100 yards. And, I think he's a future Hall of Famer. We'll see if he got too banged up. I think he didn't play at the end of the game. We'll see if it ultimately holds him out through any of these games throughout the rest of the way. But this isn't like Brock Purdy this first year as a starter. He's overcoming a lot. His defense isn't good, and I think he deserves a heck of a lot of credit. I've been on the Shanahan thing for a long time about Coach of the Year love for Kyle Shanahan. I think he deserves it. I think he should certainly be in the mix for it. I would probably vote for him, right, when you look at all the injuries they have and, being in an opportunity where you can – win a division or have the 1 seed after, missing your quarterback for much of the year is tremendous. And all the injuries they've had to overcome there as well. Shanahan's incredible. The run game stuff they do with McCaffrey, the play action off it, it's just great. It's fun to watch. And they're the real deal. I would not want to play the Niners in the playoffs. Everybody talking about the Seahawks and Rams in that division. The Niners are still really, really good. They absolutely could win the Super Bowl. I get the defense. You got concerns all over that defense. They got holes all over the place. That's fine. I think they could win the Super Bowl. I really do. San Francisco 49ers, huge win Monday Night Football against the Colts. And I believe they have to play the Bears, which is tough for them, because the Bears have the long week playing on Saturday, and then the Niners, of course, have an even shorter week playing on Monday, so things didn't go in their favor there as it relates to that. But that's a huge game on the horizon in the NFL. Lastly, some sports headlines before we get out of here. DK Metcalf, 2-game suspension. Definitely needed 1 game. He's a Steeler, so, screw it. Give him 2 games. He's going to lose a lot of money. I mean, to go over, right, when your team is competing for the playoffs, trying to win a division on the road against Detroit, I don't care what he says. You're going to go over and grab him. And, look, people said punch. If you get the side angle of it, it's not really a punch, but it's, it's not good. To go over to a fan and shove, it looks like a punch, kind of. A guy, what the heck are you doing? Right, DK's always run hot. Brilliant move by Seattle to move off him. Not from a, character perspective, but just he's getting paid a ton of money in Pittsburgh. And look what JSN's doing on a rookie deal in Seattle. And then Cooper Kupp, he's not the same guy he once was, but there's a lot he can still offer. And, they make the move for the Saints receiver there at the deadline there as well. So they're all good on offense without him. They're better without him. Pittsburgh's paying him a ton of money. And what are you doing, right? In that spot of the season, right? It's one thing if you're the Browns and you're eliminated and you do that, okay, but like your team's going to miss you while you're trying to win a division. Just inexcusable. Jamar spit on the guy, got a game, so you had to give him at least a game for punching a fan or shoving a fan, right? And it's not like it was after the game or before. Like it was as the game was happening, he went over there. So, you can't fix stupid. So DK is going to be suspended for 2 games. Ryan Day is going to be calling the plays for Ohio State. That's not good. Ryan Day, of course, for a long time called the plays for Ohio State, also being the head coach. Saw some, soft tendencies from Ohio State. And then once they turned it over to Chip Kelly, they exploded and blossomed and won a national title. And we're having great success on offense with Brian Hartline calling the plays. until the Indiana game. You have a great year. You win all these games. Offense looks good. You have one game where things aren't clicking against the best team in the country, the number one ranked team in the country, and he hits the panic button, and he's like, you know what? I'm taking over here in the playoffs, which I don't know. I don't know if that's the right move. I know Hartline's a little bit distracted. He's got the USF job. Hard to do both. The scheduling, the cycle's a mess, right? I mean, you got both coordinators for Oregon trying to coach, help a team win a national title, and they got jobs at other places, right? JMU, their coach was leaving. Tulane, Summerall, he's leaving for Florida. So the whole thing's just kind of a mess. But I believe Hartline's going to stick around. He's just not going to be calling the plays. And Ryan Day is going to be taking over play calling. And I don't know. You go the whole season with one guy, have a lot of success up until one game, lose by a field goal. Right now, you got blown out, lost by a field goal. And if the head coach makes a decision to go for it on fourth down, rather than kicking to tie the game with a couple minutes left, you probably win the game. But he's going to take over play calling. We've seen this movie before, and it's not great for Ohio State. So we'll see. By the way, the Miami game, Ohio State on paper is a much better team. But Ryan Day's had some stubborn tendencies with running the ball. There's one weak spot on Ohio State. It's their ability to run the ball. And tough to run on Miami. They proved how good they are in the trenches in the game against A&M. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm a little bit concerned if I'm an Ohio State fan. Probably shouldn't cost them on New Year's Eve. But a matchup with a Georgia or an Ole Miss after that, not ideal for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Lastly, Jamar's back in the Pro Bowl. That's good. That's positive. DJ Turner got snubbed. He's a reserve. Charlie Jones, too, by the way, is a reserve. Scored on special teams, obviously, as a returner. So you get a lot of love when you score on special teams. T. Higgins also a reserve there as well. I think DJ Turner played at a Pro Bowl level. I do think it's a snub. He was excellent. Oftentimes eliminating the best receiver on the other team. He's had a fantastic year, played through the illness, obviously, against Miami in the first half. A little flu game for DJ Turner, but was really hoping he could be a Pro Bowler this year for the Cincinnati Bengals, but ultimately was not able to make that happen. Appreciate everyone, as always, for hanging out with us here at the show. We will be back on Friday. No show on Christmas Eve tomorrow. No show on Christmas Day. The day after that there as well. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Enjoy it. Spend time with your loved ones. And we will be back on Friday. But until then, take care, everybody.